A page a day keeps the deadline at bay. Aside from painting art, I also make independent comic books. I self-published all the titles I've ever produced, and have sold them at local comic conventions here in the Philippines, such as Comic-Con and Comic-It. One time, our group Comical was talking about our separate self-published comics, and the topic of hitting one's deadlines came up. Everyone struggled to hit the deadline, but they were shocked that I was able to hit mine on time, considering I had double the pages. I guess it was because I'm their senior and I have been doing comics since elementary school, and because I already have a system that works for me. They asked me how I was able to accomplish all my 30+ pages and hit the deadline. I just told them that they should do at least 1 page a day. That way, when they have at least 30 pages of comics in a month, they could already have finished their book. I created the mantra saying a page a day keeps the deadline at bay. If you can just make the minimal effort of putting in the work of finishing 1 page a day, they wouldn't be so afraid or dreadful of the deadline. To do this, you must first have to know your deadline date. It doesn't matter if it's an entire month or just a week or whole year. The key here is to divide the work you have to do in chunks, so that you won't be overwhelmed by the entire project. May it be a huge project for yourself or a big client, or just something you set to do for yourself. With that said, I would also like to note that what I mean by a page could be changed to a step or a stage, because depending on the mediums or process you're applying to your art, it varies. Like for example, in making a 30-page comic book within a month, I sometimes pencil all the pages first, and that takes me at least 10 days to do, but I also have to ink them too, which takes me at least 15 days, and the last step is scanning and cleaning the pages on my computer, along with putting in the text and word balloons, and proofreading it and designing the cover. Not to mention printing all of the copies we'll be selling, which takes at least 5 days. So in total 30 days. Now you might say, how did that become a page a day? Well, it's technically not. Other people can pencil, ink, and put text on their comic pages in 1 day, and so in 30 days, they have literally followed my mantra. Although for me, I go about my comics and artworks and paintings by momentum. I pencil them all first, so I feed my hunger for sketching and keep my composition momentum, which is great for laying out scenes in comics. After I've done that, I pursue my inking energy now that my mind doesn't need to compose scenes. I'm more focused on just inking all the penciled work, which is harder to do than sketching and penciling, because you have to put in more detail as it will be the final work. And lastly, when I'm done inking, all will be transferred to my computer, so I'll be on my PC from that point forward. I wouldn't be going back and forth from my drawing table to my PC, because when I'm writing the dialogue for the story, going back and forth from one place to another saps my momentum and energy in storytelling. It disturbs the flow of ideas and dialogue that's supposed to come naturally. With those in mind, you can apply the 1 page a day mantra with the process you use, divide it into chunks, or how many days you have to finish the pages, and follow fully that schedule breakdown you've set for yourself. You can also add a day of rest, or if your schedule calendar permits it, an allowance of day or two of just in case you have delays, and you need to adjust the date. All we are doing here is to be able to see if you could inch step by step toward your goal, because having planned day to day might seem trivial, but I tell you, if you didn't have a routine and a scheduled attempt at your project and you're always just winging it, I'm sure you'd be so pressured and stressed if you look at your calendar 2 days away from your deadline. I mean, stress still won't be able to completely go away even if you follow this advice. All I can promise is that you'd be less stressed if you plan like this. Speaking of planning, why not print out a calendar? Don't just rely on the free calendars you get from Mercury Drug, where the dates are too small for you to write any notes on them. A digital calendar might sound better, but you can only see it when you open the app or you're on your computer. The best thing that works for me I found is printing my own calendar and posting it on the wall, so that I can see it at any time, whether I intended to see it or not, reminding myself of my schedule and the shit that you still need to do. It's easy to forget the stuff you need to do on the day, because you might not feel like it, but if you planned a week before, you're more apt to just do it, because you weren't looking at it day to day, you were planning ahead like your moves on a chessboard. Speaking of which, would you believe that I have at least 3 different calendars in my studio? I have one that covers the whole year, which I call my year calendar. I downloaded it and printed it out each month on 1 page, so I have 12 pages in total. And these have dates that all have 1x1 inch boxes for each day, so that I can write and make notes on them, or even print a small artwork that's due to be released that day. This whole year calendar is there for me to plan out, like a general which moves to make each month, and this also gives me the foresight as to which project is best to be done each month, as well as plot out which projects I have already said yes to, so I can see if I can squeeze in an extra project before or after. This also helps me not say yes or no to a project if it had a month-specific deadline, and I've already said yes to a previous one that's already in the same month or day per second. At which point I can decline or say if we can do something about the deadline to extend it, or at least weigh in on the dueling opportunities and see if the other planned event can be moved after talking to the first client to set that date. The 2 other calendars I made by hand, a few inches from my whole year calendar is my month calendar. These are 6 months worth of days in which the size of the boxes for the dates is bigger. The whole 6 months is fitted into cartolina paper, which is big enough to put more details per day. This is where we put our schedules on a more detailed note. It's the calendar I share with my wife, as we can put in schedules of appointments, birthdays, bills to pay, and even when our bread expires. I put in my schedule there which days I'll be going out as well as my deadlines, so even if I'm not in the studio, my wife can see that I'll be super busy during this time, so she won't schedule any appointments on those days. And it goes both ways, as I can also see her deadlines and remind her or check up on here how it's coming along with her project. On another wall of my studio, I also have a trifecta of whiteboards that has all our orders from our online shop and commissions and art exhibit schedules that we've accepted. We can put an X on any project finished, so that we only really see the ones we need to be doing. We also put an X to all of the days already passed in each of our calendars, so that we can see how many days left we have with the project's deadline. Also on this whiteboard are a list of things to buy, things to do, things to bring at an event, and other idea lists. It's there so that whenever I thought of something, an idea or just as simple as something to buy, I immediately write it down there, so that it won't take any more memory space in my head, so that I can think of other things, and more ideas will come to me having a clear mind. The last calendar I have is close to my PC monitor and desk. It's there as a week calendar. It's an even more detailed calendar of what work I should be doing day by day, as I plan this calendar every start of the week. It's crucial to plan ahead and cross-reference it with all 3 calendars. I also put in here reminders of what I should be posting for my page, or even just the deadlines I have for the week. Here's where you'll find my schedule for posts on every social media account. I always have something to post online so that people will know my accounts are still active, and they can see new art in my feed every week. As I said, these might sound trivial, but are all quite crucial to the wandering mind we artists have. I find that these reminders, and I employ on many others like 5 whiteboards in the same studio, humble us to see that we are quite forgetful. It's great to create scenarios in our minds, to daydream of the possibilities we want for our project, but we must not forget to ground our feet for them to materialize into our reality. Time does not exist in our imagination. We can get lost in our thoughts, and sometimes we don't even want to come back to reality, especially with the pressure we have with a looming deadline. However, if we really wish to make our dreams come true, we must wake up at some point and work our asses off for it to be a reality. You don't need to dread the deadline. You only need to make 1 page a day to keep the deadline at bay. When you're painting for a one-man show or a group show, you have to submit multiple pieces. You can chop your process in chunks too, by setting a date of finishing your all studies in a day or 2. Then pencil or sketch them on your canvas within 3 days, then you can apply each layer of paint each day. Most artists use oil paint, so you have to wait for that to dry before you can add the next layer. That layer you put in that day is a page a day. It does not have to be a literal page. Again, you can apply this to your materials or techniques you use. All that really matters is you have done a step towards finishing your artwork each and every day. And who's to say you should stop at 1 page a day?